Hey, Rock on Beer watchers, viewers. Rock on. All right, I guess you're watchers now. Ooh, that sounds nice. I like the sound of watchers. Well, that's a weird intro, huh? Happy Homebrew Wednesday. All right, guys. Yeah, happy Homebrew Wednesday. I got a homebrew I'm gonna review for you. I'm apparently gonna start rapping now. That's a thing I do now. I rhyme everything because I got the time. If you, I screwed it up already. All right, we're not going to go forward with that joke. You may notice that I have a little wardrobe going on here. I'm gonna talk about my cold-hearted beer that I brewed. So I got the two-hearted. I got my two-hearted cap on. I got my Bell's work shirt, which a funny story about that. You know what? I'm going to tell you a funny story. Stick around for after the review. I'm going to tell you a funny story about this shirt. A little incentive to watch to the end. All right, here it is. Without further ado, in my Bell's glass that goes with my hat and my shirt, there is Cold Hearted. Um, yeah, and I poured this like a few minutes ago, and the one of the things I like best about this beer is that the head has really, it's just been really, it stayed nicely carbonated. It stayed. It always has a nice head on it. Where words escape me today, apparently. But that is just that's a good looking beer. I mean, I'm very pleased with the way that this beer looks. Some background information. I brewed this beer with Nate from Under the Table Brewing. We were talking online, and we all of a sudden it was a beer that I'd kind of had in my mind, and I had bought all the stuff to make a rye two hearted or rye hearted. So I had all the ingredients for a two hearted. And then he was going to be brewing a lager, and then I got to thinking that, oh wow, I had just read that Bell's had made a lagered version of Two Hearted for Valentine's Day. This was back in February, and called Cold Hearted because it's a lager. And I just mentioned to him that, oh hey, I happen to have some lager yeast. What yeast do you have? And it was the same yeast. Um, and yeah, we just heck yeah, that sounds like an awesome idea. So we brewed it. Sort of as a transcontinental collaboration. He We actually did a video review together of each of ours, so I'm gonna let that he's gonna get that out there, and then you can kind of hear us talk about more about the recipe and the process. This is basically just going to be more of a review of mine, but I mean, to simplify it, this is a Centennial IPA, kind of a more old school IPA. It's mostly pale malt, a little bit of wheat in there, a little bit of carapils, and I think that getting this color, that's just a really nice color, and it reminds me a lot of Two Hearted. So anyway, yeah, to wrap that thought up, check out that video. I will try once it's out to come back here and put a link somewhere in the description or one of those card deals, which come on some side of this video. But for now, let's just take a look at this. Yeah, so it looks to me like Two Hearted. Two Hearted might be a skosh darker, but that might also just be my memory playing tricks on me. I obviously can't get Two Hearted. That can is empty, unfortunately, over here in Denmark. So I only have my memories to. I guess that I also have like every picture ever taken of Two Hearted. It lays on the internet, but I didn't take a look. But to me, it looks like Two Hearted, plus or minus. Well, probably minus maybe a couple of shades, maybe one shade, maybe 0.25 shades. But it looks the part. Let's take a little smell of this guy. Let's get a little bit of foam in our nose. It smells like slightly older Two Hearted. It used to have a much more citrusy smell. It used to have a lot more grapefruit and a little bit of floral, a little bit of grass. There was some grass. We'll get back. We'll touch more on the grass later, but now it just has a very subtle citrusy grapefruit, and then just a very clean. It's a very clean smell, very very subtle. Uh, just give her a little swirl just to. It doesn't smell particularly hoppy, even though there are 200 grams of Centennial hops in this, about 100 in the boil additions, and then another 100 as a dry hop. So, I mean, it's a hoppy beer, but it's also, what is it, a month, 2 months old now? I brewed this end of February. Uh, yeah, so it's about a month. It's been on keg for about a month, and it's probably about a month and a half old at this point. Now the flavor is where it gets a little sad. Also, by the way, I hit ridiculous numbers on this beer, and Nate did too. We hit almost the same gravities and pre-boils and all that stuff, which was kind of cool. We'll talk about that in the other video, but this ended at 1069, and then it fermented down to about 1011, 1010, 1011, 1012, in that neighborhood. My hydrometer is kind of wonky, so I mean, this is a 7% beer. This ain't no slouch. I think original Two Hearted is, well, I guess I can just reach back here and check real quick. 7. Yeah, it's okay. So it's about on par with the original. I think the lagered version was supposed to be was less, and we were going for a bit less. Like when I brewed this thing, I mean, I got such great efficiency on the Grainfather that I had OG at pre-boil, so yeah, it was just, I mean, 85, around 85 plus efficiency that I hadn't planned on, I hadn't expected. So it doesn't taste super heavy. It's got a very nice like dryish mouthfeel. What I'm going to talk to you about now, this is a completely different beer than when I first took my first pint of it. The problem with this beer throughout the whole process has been that it has been extremely bitter. It has mellowed out now here over time. When I first poured the first few, it was almost undrinkably vegetal bitter, like green hop bitter, you know. And the funny thing is that there was a lot of hops in solution, so I think part of the problem is that I didn't let it crash long enough. I wanted to lager it in the keg. I didn't want to lager it for a long period because I didn't want it to sit on the dry hops. So I think I only let it crash two days after putting. Oh well, I put the dry hops in as I ramped up into the diacetyl rest. So I put the hops in at about 17 degrees Celsius, and then I started ramping down. And over the course of 5 days, I got it down to about 10 degrees. And then I transferred it to a keg, and then that was where it was going to do its main lagering during carbonation. And then I let it sit on the gas, just in the keg freezer, or in the keezer, which is set to 3 degrees Celsius to lager. And kind of what I just found is that it was just really bitter. It had a very grassy flavor to it, which that grassiness is also, I think that was part of the just raw hop flavor. There's still some of it there, but it's given way to a little bit more grapefruit. It's still a very bitter beer. It's still way over um, what I would like it to be and what I remember. I mean, Two Hearted is not a it's not a New England IPA. It is a bitter beer. It's a more old school traditional IPA, but it's not this bitter. So I think that what I would do, this is a great beer. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can see I've already blown through, especially now that some of those more unpleasant, kind of grassy, bitter, like raw hop flavors have died out. Um, I it's a great drinking beer. It's dangerously drinkable. It does not drink like a 7% beer at all. It's not thick. It's very easy to drink. You don't taste any of the alcohol until your brain explodes. But in the beginning, it was tougher. It was a lot tougher. I think I'm pretty hard on it in the video that Nate's gonna put up. It was a couple weeks ago that we shot that, 2-3 weeks ago. So it was in a different place than it is now. Now it's just, I mean, you could destroy this. It's still not. I'm not 100% happy with it, and that's something that I think there are a couple factors. I think because of the lager yeast, there's nothing. It is so clean, it is so cleanly fermented that the bitterness from the actual IBUs is just clear as a bell. There's nothing in between you and those IBUs, and that's also why it's so drinkable. Is because it's a lager, so it's crisp, bitter and crisper. Oh yeah, there we go. So I think that just because it's a lager, I think that those IBUs, I think that I put it was too much of a dry hop. I think that I didn't let it cold crash long enough. I didn't get When I transferred it, I wasn't careful enough to I got too much hop particulate in, so it did end up actually sitting on hop particulate longer than I would have wanted. Um, and I actually, when I tried this before I dry hopped it, just as a sample, I thought it was really, really nice, really clearly. Other than the yeast in suspension because it was still fermenting partially, I really thought the flavors were good in it. So I almost, I mean, the hopping, I did a 60-minute bittering charge, and then I did a five, a small 10, a small 5, and then a decent sized whirlpool edition. And then I whirlpooled it at 80 degrees for a half hour. I think that if I went back, I would get rid of the 60-minute edition. I would get rid of the bittering charge. Just just get rid of it. Knock the IBUs back, and I mean, I would actually also seriously think about not dry hopping this beer, or at least dry hopping it to a lower amount of hops, uh, and certainly maybe bagging and trying to get less hop particulate and doing all that. So all that stuff combined is what I would like to try and redo this recipe, and I think it would come out way better. But not a terrible beer, not the beer that I was really hoping for, but I don't know. I learned some lessons, and I think I can take it to the next level. All right. So that is the Cold Hearted. That is my Cold Hearted. It's a good beer. I would recommend brewing it. I'll try and put the recipe uh, down in the description. I think I say that every time. If I don't, remind me in the comments, and I'll put it in there. And yeah. So, oh, the story about the yeah. I just looked in the thingy. So I got this shirt. Heck, how long ago did I get this shirt? Must have been like one of the first times I was back to Michigan after moving to Denmark. I think it's probably 10 years ago. I got this shirt, right? And I got it over at the Bell's General Store. They just sell, like, Bell's has the most ridiculous amount of merchandise. Go to their website and just look through the ridiculous amount of, like, logoed merchandise they have. That's why I have so much of this stuff. I mean, like, you're seeing like 1% of my Bell's junk. It's not junk. I love Bell's. I love Bell's, so that's why I have so much of their stuff. But they were selling this work shirt, and I love work shirts. Um I used to work in a factory. I used to be a delivery driver, and I would live in work clothes. You know, like Dickies work shirts and Dickies work pants. As a as a factory guy and a delivery guy, I just lived in that stuff, and I love them. I absolutely love. I have a whole. My wife. I even wear them to work sometimes. Like my wife is like, "You shouldn't be wearing that to your kind of job," and I'm like, "Whatever, whatever." I'm wearing a work shirt. So I bought a Bell's work shirt, and I don't. They do not sell them anymore because I think that this, and I think this is the reason why they don't sell them anymore, right? So, cut to I don't know, however many years later, and this is a shirt that I would wear to like beer events and stuff because it was like my favorite shirt, my favorite work shirt, my favorite brewery, and I would go to like festivals and stuff wearing it. And it's also like it's real comfortable because it's a friggin' work shirt. So I went to the Copenhagen Beer Celebration, which is Copenhagen's biggest beer thing. It's put on by McKellar. Breweries from all over the world come there, and I was wearing this shirt in there, and that year Bell's was there. Bell's, I was super excited because Bell's was at the festival, and I got to talk with a lot of cool people from Bell's. It was awesome. I'll have to tell that story. I'll do a retrospective on Bell's at some point where I talk about just my that stuff, but just this specifically outside of Bell's. So I was wearing this shirt, right? And I was wearing it around town too, like because it's not just at the festival. It's like all the bars are doing events, all the everything, and you just you go to the festival, then you go out, you're hammered. There's some videos to prove that on this channel if you go way back in the Wayback Machine, and you're just hammered, and you're going around to all these, and I started to get like in the festival, I noticed it too. Like at one point, I was in the Hill Farmstead line, and I got up to the line. They were having trouble with their keg. And one of the guys was like, "Hey man, can you give me a hand here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to. Yeah, I know how to use it. I know how to hook up a key keg." So I just busted. I technically worked for Hill Farmstead for like 2 minutes because I just like busted up behind their table and like helped them hook the serving keg up to the machine because it obviously wasn't their equipment. They was just it was European crap stuff. Sorry, it's not crap. Anyway, and I noticed that the people were. But then when I got out in the city, like in the night, people were buying me drinks and I was getting stuff and it's like, hey, come join our bottle thing and I would be like, yeah, I'm from Michigan. Yeah, of course I am. And I didn't realize it till the next day. I put the shirt back on, of course, because I was hungover, and my wife and I went to get barbecue at the War Pigs in Copenhagen, and it was super crowded. Um, so we were gonna get barbecue for lunch, and we were gonna get on the train and head back home, and it was super crowded, and these guys. Um, these people were at a table. It's like shared seating, and I like you could tell that my wife and I were looking around, right, for a place to sit. And so these people just like gesture us over, like, "Oh, sit here," and it's like you can tell that they're like brewers, industry people, and they're all sitting in like huge group. And I came over and I sat next to them, and it was people from B Nectar, which is a meadery, brewery meadery in Michigan, and and the guy's like, "Oh, hey, you're from Bell's. That's awesome that you guys are here." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no man, I'm not. I don't work for Bell's. I'm just I'm here for the festival, but I am from I'm from Michigan." And he's like, "Oh, we're at Michigan." And I told him, and he's from like really close by, and we're just rapping, and they're giving me bottles of the festival people are giving the industry people like these crazy bottles that people have brought, like ultra specialty crap that's been brought in but in people's suitcases, and they're just pouring me drinks. And it dawned on me later that like all over town and at the festival and stuff, people thought I friggin' worked for Bell's, and that's why I was getting like bigger pours, and people were like chatting with me and stuff, it's because they thought I had the work shirt on. They thought I must work at Bell's, and I was just over there for the festival. So it's pretty awesome. It was a pretty cool experience. I felt kind of like a dick later because I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that when I put this shirt on that people would think I was from there. But it worked out for me at the time. Met some cool people, did some cool stuff. So, all right, so that's my Bell's work shirt story. Yeah, thanks if you made it. Holy crap, 20 minutes. This is a long one. The story was worth it though. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's a good story. I don't know if you think it's a good story. I think it's a fun story. Cheers, guys. You can tell that this is going to my head a little bit. This is a great beer. Check out the recipe. I'm gonna brew it again for sure. And now I have a pressure fermenter, so I'm gonna try some other stuff. But thanks so much for watching. Yeah, cheers. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.